this is big.
Isn't that unbelievable?
And I can't begin to congratulate you and to feel happy, and you give us such joy for so many years with your music. But now, the people that know you and that know Carol, I always ask these people when they came down to do interviews, what did you think when you first heard that the two of them moved in together? And they always smile, and they go, I knew it. I knew it. It should have happened a long time ago. So let me ask the groom, when was the moment that she was your manager for so many years. When was that moment when the tide shifted into a romance?
Well, there's an answer to that question.
Well, that's why I asked it.
I'll figure it out. Of course, Carol has been my manager for 38 years now. And her husband passed away in 2011, and my dear wife passed away in 22, and February of 22. You know, I just went kind of crazy for a while. And gradually, what felt natural, very natural, was to love Carol. Carol has been not only my great friend, but we would always talk things over, things in our professional and personal life. And so it wasn't like I had to get to know her or anything like that. And my life, although it was altered, was not turned upside down like it easily could have been. And I was grateful to God and grateful to her for that. The fact she always had my back, she was always looking out for me, and I just felt this great warmth for Carol, and then that turned into love. That's all I can really say, and it just felt very natural and very right, and I really mean this when I say that I feel that the good Lord put us together, and I feel very, very good about that, or I wouldn't be doing it.
When I worked for Carol, one of the things that she taught me was that you don't mess around with anyone in the office.
You don't cross the line.
Oh, that was it. That's her
said. Motto.
You don't cross the line. Well, she crossed the line, and God bless her that she did.
Well, me too. You really have to ask yourself, is this right? Because there's so many things that feel wrong about it when you've been guarding yourself for all that time. But it's amazing how it happens. It just becomes reality. It just becomes your reality without really thinking about it. That's how it happened with she and I.
I gotta tell you, your voice hasn't aged a bit. You sound just as good in 2025 as you did in 1964. How is that possible? I guess you were just blessed. You're lucky.
Well, I've been very blessed with good health, number one. Number two, I take care of my voice because these guys go out on the road for 6 months, playing every night of the week. They'd find me under a trestle somewhere. I don't know, begging for food. I could never do it. I couldn't do it when I was 20, so I certainly can't do it now. And so I'm very careful how many dates per year that I take, and I space them apart so that I can be in full voice for each show. It's very important that you do that because otherwise you're letting people down, especially the older that you get, the more you have to guard against ruining your voice. So.
The other thing I've always wanted to ask you is, how did you avoid getting whacked at Roulette Records? And I remember the story of the guy that did Honeycomb. Was it Honeycomb?
Yeah. Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers. They left him on the side of the road for dead because he complained about not getting royalties. Didn't you ever complain about not getting royalties?
Yeah, I was, and we were told point blank that crime doesn't pay. What can I say?
Doesn't pay you.
Yeah, I realized fairly early on that mechanical royalties just weren't going to happen. We were making money from our writing, from BMI,
Sure.
from our concerts and commercials and places where our music was being used. But mechanical royalties, including publishing monies from Roulette, just weren't going to happen. So we had decisions to make because we were having such success at Roulette in record sales and airplay, and you know, we were creations of radio, and so much of that is because of Roulette and Red Schwartz, who was the promotion director up there. I decided not to break it up. Plus, there are other dangers involved, but the reason that we stayed at Roulette was because we were having such success there that I don't believe we would have had anywhere else.
Oh,
because,
I don't know about that.
well, what I mean by that is that, especially starting out with a fluky record like Hanky Panky, I believe that we would have immediately been handed over to an in-house A&R man, producer, and that's probably the last time anybody would have heard from us if we had gone with one of the corporate labels, a CBS or RCA or even Atlantic. We would have never been allowed to do everything ourselves. Maybe later on after some hits, but certainly not at first. And at Roulette, they actually needed us. They hadn't had a hit in 3 years when Hanky Panky came along. And so they gave us, you know, the key to the candy store and allowed me and the group to morph into whatever we could become. And that's how we learned our craft. Writing and producing and the whole 9 yards of not only record production but record manufacturing and designing album covers and just all the things that, you know, marketing and promotion. Distribution. I ended up hanging out with the promotion guys and the distributors. And so we learned it inside out. We learned it from the street up. And that was always the best way to learn things.
You had to have been scared if you're sitting in Morris Levy's office. And I think this was a scene in your book, which, by the way, I gotta say is one of the greatest rock and roll books ever written.
Thank you.
But the fact that you survived unscathed without any, they didn't break your kneecaps or anything, but weren't you in Morris Levy's office when some major league gangsters showed up?
They were up there a lot. And you know, when we first signed with Roulette, we didn't realize who we were involved with. But we had this crazy, tumultuous relationship with Roulette because, and scary sometimes, because unbeknownst to us when we signed, of course, Roulette was a front, one of the many fronts for the Genovese crime family in New York. And of course, this made life really interesting because while we were hanky-pankying and money-moneying, this very dark and sinister story was going on behind us that we couldn't talk about. And we'd meet somebody up in Morris's office, and a week later we'd see him on TV, you know, doing the perp walk in handcuffs coming out of a warehouse in New Jersey. And that kept happening, you know. We'd say, isn't that the guy we just met up at Morris's office? And it was. And that sort of thing kept happening. And they would, you know, gangsters that we'd recognize from TV would come up and hang out in Morris's office. And so we knew when not to go in there and stuff like that. I mean, I had very mixed feelings about Morris and Roulette because on one hand we had all this success, but in another, doing business was was such a disaster trying to do business because you couldn't. And you start talking. One of the scenes in our movie that I want to get across is that how unnatural it is to talk with one of these mob guys, because they're always checking you out. And you can't have a normal conversation with them. You know, you can't talk baseball or something. They say they don't like somebody. What are you going to do, argue with them? You know? And the fact that they can do things to you you could never do to them without batting an eye. All that stuff, you know. They know you're scared of them. And that just takes the whole conversation to another place. So you can't do small talk.
Wow. Well, as long as you mentioned it, tell us about this movie. What can you say?
Right. Well, it looks like it's going to end up being a series rather than a one-time theater movie. And it looks like it's going to be in several parts. Our book has been out for several years. It's called Me, the Mob, and the Music, and it's the story of essentially an autobiography with about 3/4 of it devoted to this nutty relationship we had with Roulette Records and all the people that were involved with Roulette Records. And so it should be, you can't beat rock and roll and the mob, I don't think. I think that's a great combination if it's truthful and done right.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry this went over time, but I don't get a chance to talk to a legend.
Well, bless your heart. Thank you.
So thank you.